The Seahawks got their guy in the first round with their top-graded defensive player, Byron Murphy II, falling to them at number 16 overall. What does Murphy bring to the table for the Seahawks, and what are realistic expectations for him entering his NFL career? Texas defensive coordinator Pete Kwaitkowski is going to be joining us here on a special edition of Locked On Seahawks.
You are Locked On Seahawks, your daily Seattle Seahawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, 12. This is Corbin Smith, host of the Locked On Seahawks podcast, your daily Seahawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. A special thanks to all the 12s tuning in for this bonus Wednesday episode, whether you're tuning in from nearby Renton or you're down in Austin, Texas. Thank you for making Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week. We greatly appreciate it. The Seahawks had good fortunes bestowed on them on Thursday night in the first round of the NFL draft last week. 14 consecutive picks used on offensive players. That allowed their number one ranked defender, Byron Murphy II, out of Texas, to fall into their laps. John Schneider quickly rushed in the card to select Murphy as their first round selection. Here to break down Seattle's latest first round pick, Byron Murphy II. Excited to have Texas defensive coordinator Pete Kwaitkowski, formerly of the Washington Huskies as well, joining us on the phone. Thank you, Coach Kwaitkowski, for joining us. We greatly appreciate it, especially during this hectic recruiting season.
Yeah, you bet. My pleasure.
Coach, you were up here in the Pacific Northwest coaching at Washington before you accepted the defensive coordinator job at Texas in 2021. That actually coincided with when Byron Murphy II changed his commitment from Baylor to Texas. So
right.
My questions here, how involved were you in that process with him changing from Baylor to Texas? Were you involved in that at all because of your late addition to the coaching staff in conjunction with Murphy committing to the Longhorns? And what did you see in his prep tape that suggested to you what he was capable of doing in your defense before he even played a down in it?
No, I was not involved with his recruitment. When we got there, those guys had already been signed their letter of intents. They were already signed with Texas. But I knew about him from when I was at Washington because we recruited Dallas area, and so I knew about him and knew he was a really good player in high school, very explosive, strong, mature guy. For a guy coming out of high school, he was already jacked up physically, and so when we got there, like any freshman, you never know what they're gonna be like. But we went through spring, and then that year, obviously that next season, he played quite a bit, and just his explosiveness, his change of direction, his quickness, all that stuff showed up from the first day he got there. Awesome guy in the weight room, and then his work ethic on and off the field was incredible. Very, very focused, mature, motivated guy right from the get-go.
As you mentioned, Byron wasn't even a full-time starter for the Longhorns in your defense until this past season, but he got plenty of action as a true freshman and a sophomore, showed that NFL skill set early in his career. Where have you seen him grow the most when you look back at the last 3 years, from when you first started coaching him, when he arrived at Texas and he was a true freshman, to where he's at now heading into the NFL? His again, it comes back to his ability to come out of his hips, and being physical, all that stuff added up. Obviously, the skills that you have at that size to be able to play running back is very very helpful to be able to play D-line. Guy we had at Washington, Vita, he did the same. He played D-line and played a little bit of running back when he was in high school. Obviously, they're different height-wise, but very similar as far as their athleticism and ability to really be explosive and physical in short areas. The other thing about Byron that was really, you could tell he was
mature beyond his years. When he came to Texas, he had basically like an AA degree from the classes he took in high school. So he had a lot of college credits already banked away.
Yeah, he put himself in a really good position to be able to be an early entrant. That's a perfect segue into this next question for me, because Byron Murphy II was one of the few underclassmen that entered this NFL draft as an early entrant, and that's kind of the way things have changed. I believe it was 58 early entrants. That's it this year. A lot of seniors, a lot of super seniors because of COVID, and this really is what has changed with NIL and the transfer portal. You see a lot more players that are coming back for additional time in college because they have the opportunity to make some pretty good money and further develop their game. Adding those extra eligibility years because of COVID. Still some players that have those that are coming into the draft after playing 5-6 years at a school. From your perspective, when it comes to Byron Murphy II and some of these underclassmen that are coming into the league, how do you feel like NIL and the transfer portal are helping these players in regard to being prepared to come into the NFL, where football is a job, that it's a career? How are you seeing it make an impact positively with these players getting ready to come into the league, or do you see it being a positive?
Yeah, I think, I think it definitely is part of it, because the reason guys leave college early to go to the NFL is most of it's financially motivated, right?
Yep.
With NIL and guys being able to make money in college now, I think that's just another data point for these guys to look at. And so does coming back, help them to, increase their stock, get better, whether it's physically maturing, mentally maturing, socially, emotionally maturing, whatever that is, these guys are always growing and getting better. And so I think that has definitely been a reason why these guys, you see a lot of guys staying. They get to their third year in college, and they got to make that decision. And I think that's why you see a lot of them stay, because of those reasons.
Yeah, it's interesting because the Seahawks, aside from Murphy, he was the exception to the rule. They picked mostly players that were 23, 24, 25 years old, older upperclassmen. That's what a lot of this class consisted of, though. And Seattle was prioritizing experience, particularly with their offensive linemen. But again, Byron is the one player that they brought in early entrant, 21 years old, still a very young player with a lot of room to develop. And I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit, Coach Kwaitkowski, and let's consider that John Schneider himself the other day, I was laughing about this because he was asked to come up with an NFL player comp for Byron Murphy II. And then he quickly said Aaron Donald. And after Donald slipped off his tongue, you could just tell that he was kind of like, oh, I probably shouldn't have gone down that well. One of the greatest players in NFL history.
Right.
That's called putting pressure on a player. And so John Schneider kind of backtracked, but he kept bringing up, hey, it's the similar size. I see some of the same skill sets. From your perspective, being a longtime college coach, seeing a lot of really good defensive tackles during your time at Washington, when you were at Boise State, now at Texas, what is your pro comp? Who do you see Byron Murphy II being a under 300-pound defensive tackle stacking up against in terms of his skill set, and how does he compare to that player at the next level?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I'm not as versed with a lot of these D tackles. I think the comparison to Aaron Donald is he's a stature, right? I think Murph's like 6'1", 6'2"-ish, and Aaron Donald, is in that 6 foot range, and they're both compact, very muscular guys. I don't want to put the cart in front of the horse there. He's got the ability, he's got the skill set to be similar for sure, because he's very explosive and quick and can run. He's got violent hands. I think he gets in there and he starts learning from the guys that are in the league, that have been in the league, I think he's only going to become more productive as he gets experience at the NFL level. So to answer your question, I don't really know who to compare him to other than stature wise. They're similar.
Yeah, there just aren't very many guys to choose from on that. So like I said, I apologize for putting you on the spot, but you just don't see very many 297-pound defensive tackles in the NFL that are overly successful. There's been a handful of those guys, but schematically, Byron lined up all over your defense, over 120 snaps at the nose tackle position, 0 and 1 tech at 297 pounds. You don't see very many do that and with the efficiency and effectiveness that he did for your defense, but well over 200 snaps in the B gap as well, playing the 3 tech and 4 I. He had a few snaps out wide. Do you see him having that same type of flexibility in Mike Macdonald's 3-4 defense, or do you envision this being a case with his size, with his skill set, that he's going to spend the bulk of his snaps playing in that B gap, in that 3 tech 4 I role for the Seattle Seahawks?
No, I think he's very comfortable in the 0-2 I. He plays with tremendous leverage, and he's really strong. He can hold the point. He can split the doubles. And the big, obviously physically he can do it, but he's got the mentality. He has the mentality to do that. It takes a different. You got to be wired a certain way to be able to get pounded on like that by the guards and centers when you're an interior lineman. But I think he can play anywhere along the line. I think he can even play 4 I. It's just a matter of what the Seahawks are gonna do with him, but he's definitely, I would think, more I guess he has a better opportunity to make more plays. Obviously, being a 3 technique shade 2 I than a straight 0.
Yeah, it might even be possible. I'm curious to see if the Seahawks might put him at the big end position, the 5 tech, like they used to do back in the day with Red Bryant, have that bigger bodied guy that can also man up against the run and can rush off the edge, has enough athleticism to do that.
Yeah, heck yeah. No, the 5 tech, 5 technique, put him over a tight end. There ain't gonna be no tight end that's gonna block him. No question.
Doing that. Justin Matabuke's done that some in Baltimore. So I would think that might be a good comp, actually, right there. Ironic enough, but I've greatly appreciated your time, Coach Kwaitkowski. I know this is the heat of the recruiting time during the spring. I know there's a lot going on. You got a really hectic schedule, so greatly appreciate you taking the time here to speak with us about Byron Murphy II. Real quick, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot again here, and this might be tricky because you had 3 years coaching Byron Murphy II, a lot of different experiences with him. He's been playing significant snaps for the Longhorns since day one. But what is a story or a couple stories that maybe you can share here to give Seahawk fans a little bit of perspective and pull that curtain back a little bit for them to see not only the type of player they're getting in Byron Murphy II, but the type of person as well?
Well, the guy that's going there, he's very mature. There's not a lot of flash or bravado from the guy. He's very reserved guy when it comes to, he's not a talker. He's a doer, and he's very very driven, very serious about being the best football player that he can be. And it showed at his time with us because of how he handled himself on and off the field in the classroom, and how productive and good of a player he was for us. Playing D-line, and the one thing that the stats that show up I'm sure he would have liked to have more sacks and more tackles and that kind of stuff. But there was so much production that he got in our the way we grade and track production with taking doubles, taking two gaps, keeping guys clean at the linebacker position. It was just incredible how, and he did it day in and day out. And so that, I know the one thing you're gonna get from this guy is he's gonna show up every day with a growth mindset, and he's gonna give everything he's got. And I think he's gonna be a really good pro.
Before we let you go, one last question for you, Coach Kwaitkowski, in regard to Byron Murphy II. He's coming into the NFL with a veteran-laden, experienced, talented defensive line. You've got Leonard Williams, Jaron Reed, Draymond Jones. What are realistic expectations that Seahawks fans should go into this process with Byron Murphy II? And for him to maximize on his talent as a rookie and really make a splash this year in 2024, where do you think he needs to make the most growth to make that happen on the field?
Probably just finishing plays. He was in the backfield a lot, and he'd probably be the first one to, he had a lot of opportunities, at sacks that he didn't get, or tackles for losses, and he's right there and didn't finish them. Probably just finishing as disruptive as he is, I think he's got a lot more upside as far as being productive from a finishing standpoint.
Thank you so much for your time, Coach Kwaitkowski, and best of luck to you on the recruiting trail. I'm sure that you're going to have a little easier time now that you've got a first-round pick at Byron Murphy II to sell to recruits to come to Texas, already one of the blue blood programs in college football. Enjoy the rest of your offseason, and we greatly appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you very much.
You can follow me on X and Threads at Corbin Smith NFL. Make sure to follow Locked On Seahawks on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast to make sure you don't miss a single episode. Coming up later on Wednesday, I'll be rejoined by Rob Rang. The two of us are going to dive into the big winners and losers for the Seahawks coming out of the 2024 NFL Draft. You won't want to miss it. Another jam-packed show coming your way. We'll see you in a bit. Thanks for listening. Go Hawks.